I have a pretty mind-bending hypothetical for you today, and I want you to answer it honestly. Right now, just instinctively.
Oh boy. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so imagine you're standing in this empty room, and I put two things on a table right in front of you.
Right.
On the left side, there's this sleek, heavy-duty silver briefcase. You pop the latches, and inside is exactly $3 million.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Yeah, crisp, untraceable $100 bills. It is yours to just walk away with this very second.
Sold. I'll take it.
Wait, you haven't heard the other option? Sitting all by itself on the right side of the table is a single, seemingly worthless copper penny.
A penny.
A penny. But this penny has a catch. It will double in value every single day for exactly 31 days.
Ah, right.
So what's your choice? Do you take the instant 3 million or do you take the magical compounding penny?
I mean, it really is the ultimate psychological trap, isn't it? Because
Right.
human nature practically screams at us to grab the briefcase.
Totally. 3 million in cash is right there.
Exactly. We are evolutionarily wired for immediate security, like immediate gratification.
Right.
So the idea of walking away from 3 million guaranteed dollars for a piece of copper, it feels mathematically reckless to our brains.
It really does.
Our ancestral brains look at the penny and literally perceive a threat to our survival. Because, passing up a massive immediate resource for this abstract promise, it just goes against millions of years of hunter-gatherer programming.
But if we actually break down the math behind that single penny, the whole illusion of that immediate payoff just shatters.
It completely falls apart.
Let's unpack it, because the math on this is staggering when you map it out day by day. Let's say you chose the penny, right against every survival instinct you have.
Okay.
Day 1, you have 1 cent. Day 2, 2 cents. Day 3, 4 cents. We are not exactly living the high life yet.
Not quite.
In fact, by day 10, you have a grand total of $5.12.
Wow, 10 days in.
Yeah. And if your neighbor took the $3 million, they're probably driving past you in a brand new sports car right about now. Well, you're just staring at a handful of pocket change.
And that time frame right there, that is the crucible.
Yeah.
Because the sheer agonizing patience required during those first few weeks is where most human beings just break.
Well, yeah, because even by day 20, you only have, about $5,200?
Right. You are 2/3 of the way through the month, and you are still millions of dollars behind the person who took the briefcase.
Which has to feel terrible.
It does. This is the exact moment where the cognitive dissonance kicks in. Your brain starts screaming, I made the wrong choice, the system is broken, I should have taken the shortcut.
You feel like a total failure.
Exactly. You're comparing your reality to the person who took the immediate payout.
But then the mathematical reality of exponential growth finally rears its head. Day 29, you cross the 2.7 million mark.
There it is.
Day 30, 5.3 million. And on that final day, day 31, that single penny has compounded into $10,737,418.
It's incredible.
You don't just beat the briefcase. You completely obliterate it. And that invisible, slow-moving, entirely undeniable force is really the perfect illustration of our focus for this deep dive.
It really is. Today, we're taking a magnifying glass to the foundational principles that govern this exact phenomenon.
We're looking at the fundamental architecture of massive sustainable success. We've synthesized a whole bunch of sources, notes, and research surrounding Darren Hardy's The Compound Effect.
And our mission here is to extract the absolute unvarnished truth about what actually guides the world's highest achievers.
Right, focusing on how to jumpstart your income, your life, your success, without falling for the modern illusion of the magic pill.
Because we undeniably live in a magic pill culture.
Oh, absolutely.
We are bombarded with marketing for the overnight success, the 30-day shred, the get-rich-quick crypto schemes.
We just want the result without the process.
Everyone does. But the underlying reality of the material we're looking at today completely strips away that illusion. There are literally no shortcuts.
None at all. And we need to set that expectation for you, the listener, right out of the gate.
Yes. The formula we're going to dissect today works 100% of the time. It is as reliable and indifferent as gravity.
But it only works if you work it.
Exactly. It's completely agnostic to your background, your bank balance, your genetics. It only answers to time and consistency.
So let's get into the actual mechanics of this formula. The foundational equation goes like this. Small, smart choices plus consistency plus time equals a radical difference.
And the most crucial word in that equation is small.
Small, right.
The magic isn't in some massive dramatic upheaval of your life. You don't need to quit your job, move to a mountaintop, and meditate for 12 hours a day.
Thank goodness.
Right. The magic is actually in the incredibly mundane. It's in these tiny, almost invisible disciplines that you practice when absolutely no one is watching.
Repeated relentlessly over a very long horizon.
Exactly.
To really visualize how this plays out in real life, there is an incredible scenario from the text I want to walk you through. It's an analogy that perfectly tracks 3 different trajectories.
The 3 friends.
Yeah, let's call them Scott, Brad, and Larry. So they're 3 friends who grew up together. They all make about $50,000 a year, all married, all live in the same neighborhood.
And they all have average health and average body weight.
Right. They represent completely identical baselines.
They are essentially the ultimate control group for a behavioral experiment.
Exactly. So friend number 1, Scott, makes a choice. He decides to make absolutely 0 changes to his life.
Just coasting.
Yeah, he keeps doing what he's always done, comfortable, status quo. Now, friend number 2, Brad, decides he wants to make some incredibly small, almost imperceptible positive changes.
But nothing crazy, right?
No, he doesn't go on a crash diet or start training for an Ironman. He just decides to cut out exactly 125 calories from his diet every day.
Which is nothing. That's what is that?
It's like swapping out a single can of soda for a glass of sparkling water, or just leaving 2 bites of a sandwich on the plate.
Very minor.
Nothing radical. And he also decides to walk an extra 2,000 steps a day, which is maybe 15 extra minutes of walking while listening to a podcast.
Right.
And finally, he decides to read just 10 pages of a good educational book every night before bed.
Okay, so that's Brad. And then we have Larry, the 3rd friend.
Right, Larry.
Larry isn't trying to ruin his life. He just decides he wants to enjoy it a tiny bit more. He wants to relax.
Sure.
So he makes some equally small but slightly negative choices. He adds just 1 extra small indulgence to his day.
Like a muffin.
Yeah, a single muffin at breakfast. Or maybe pouring 1 slightly larger glass of wine after work. Nothing crazy, just 100 or so extra calories.
And he stops his minimal exercise routine.
Right, opting to just sit on the couch and watch 1 extra episode of television at night instead of moving around.
So let's track them. Month 1 goes by. If you look at Scott, Brad, and Larry standing next to each other at a neighborhood barbecue, there is 0 visible difference.
None at all.
Month 5 goes by, nothing. Month 10 goes by, still nothing. Brad is reading his 10 pages, Larry is eating his muffin, Scott is just existing.
Still totally invisible.
But there's a very specific time frame where the invisible architecture of these choices suddenly breaches the surface. Month 27.
Month 27 is the inflection point.
Yeah.
It is the moment that Penny crosses the $1 million mark.
Yes. At month 27, the divergence between these 3 friends isn't just noticeable, it is staggering.
It really is. Let's look at the raw numbers.
Okay, so Brad, who cut just 125 calories a day, has cut over 100,000 calories over those 27 months.
Wow.
Biologically, that translates to a loss of roughly 33 pounds. He's lean. His cardiovascular health is vastly improved from the daily walks.
And the reading.
Right, because he read 10 pages a night. He has consumed almost 1,000 pages of personal development and industry knowledge.
His whole mindset has shifted.
Totally. He's applied new strategies at work, and he just secured a massive promotion.
And Larry's trajectory has compounded in the exact opposite direction.
Man, Larry.
Yeah.
By adding just a few extra calories a day, he's gained 33 pounds.
Ouch.
He's sluggish, his sleep apnea is acting up, his mindset has completely stagnated from the extra television. He is irritable at work and disconnected in his marriage.
And Scott.
Scott is exactly where he was 27 months ago, except now he's slightly more bitter because he feels like the world is passing him by.
It's the same time period. Identical starting lines.
Same?
Radically different outcomes.
Right.
Entirely dictated by choices so small they seem fundamentally insignificant in the moment.
Okay, I have to push back here on behalf of the listener. Because honestly, 27 months, that is a painfully long time to wait for a tangible result when you aren't seeing daily progress. It's like staring at a seed planted in the dirt, watering it every single day, and just standing there waiting for it to become a tree.
It's excruciating.
How do people not just throw their hands up and give up in month 4? Like when the bathroom scale hasn't moved a single ounce and their bank account looks exactly the same?
Well, that is the defining question of human achievement right there. Why do we quit?
Yeah.
Why do we?
To understand this, we really have to dive into the neurology and the evolutionary biology of delayed gratification.
Okay.
From a purely biological standpoint, human brains simply are not designed to comprehend, much less trust, exponential growth.
Really?
Yeah, our ancestors lived in a strictly linear, immediate return environment. If you wanted to stay warm, you gathered wood, you sparked a flint, and boom, you instantly had a fire.
Immediate return. Exactly. If you were hungry, you hunted an animal, cooked it, ate it. Immediate return. The brain's dopamine system, the neurotransmitter responsible for motivation, evolved to reinforce actions that produced immediate, visible survival benefits.
Oh, wow. So we are essentially fighting millions of years of evolutionary hardwiring when we try to trust this invisible compounding process.
We are fighting our own biology every single day.
That's intense.
When Brad reads his 10 pages on day one, his brain expects a reward. It expects a surge of intelligence or a tangible benefit right then.
But he doesn't wake up on day 2 feeling like a genius.
Exactly. When he skips the soda, he doesn't wake up 5 pounds later.
Yeah.
So this dopamine prediction error occurs.
What's that?
The brain expects a reward, doesn't get one, and actually registers a dip in dopamine, which literally feels like disappointment.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
The effect is entirely invisible at first, but this is the ultimate filter. Patience isn't just a virtue here. It is a profound biological superpower. The invisibility of the progress is the barrier to entry that keeps the masses out. That invisibility is exactly why most people quit, which means if you can endure that neurological discomfort, you win.
That is fascinating. We are battling our own dopamine receptors.
Literally.
So if the results are going to be completely invisible for months or even years, we obviously can't rely on the dopamine hit of seeing massive daily milestones to keep us going.
No, you'll burn out.
We can't let our motivation be tethered to an outcome we can't see. So our focus has to shift entirely away from the macro result and zoom in completely on the micro decisions we make when we think no one is watching.
That's exactly it.
But how do we take control of those micro decisions?
Well, this requires a fundamental shift in how we perceive our own agency. The core principle here is that everything in your life right now is the direct, unedited printout of your past decisions.
That's heavy.
Your bank account, your waistline, your relationship status, it is all a lagging indicator of your habits and choices.
It is a heavy, almost uncomfortable reality to face. Because the truth is, most of us are living a massive portion of our lives on complete autopilot.
Oh, without a doubt.
We're making decisions entirely unconsciously, letting our circumstances, our moods, or our immediate environment dictate our path.
Yes.
Living on autopilot is like driving home from work on a Tuesday evening, pulling into your driveway, putting the car in park, and suddenly realizing you have absolutely no memory of the last 5 miles.
We've all done that.
Right. You navigated the turns, you stopped at the red lights, you didn't crash, but your conscious mind wasn't actually driving, you were just along for the ride.
Neuroscientists actually call this the default mode network.
Oh.
When your brain recognizes a familiar pattern like your commute home, it shifts processing away from the energy-hungry prefrontal cortex, which handles active decision-making.
Okay, and where does it go?
It delegates it to deeper automatic regions of the brain. It's basically an energy-saving mechanism.
Like putting your computer to sleep.
Sort of, yes. But when you apply that energy-saving mechanism to your life choices, you surrender your agency. You become a passenger.
Now, how do we fix it?
To combat this, you have to adopt a stance of radical 100% responsibility for every single area of your life.
Extreme ownership.
You have to actively rip the steering wheel back from your default mode network. And that means stopping the blame game immediately. Blaming the economy, blaming your boss, your upbringing, your genetics.
But wait, what if the blame is completely justified? Like, what if there genuinely is a macroeconomic downturn or someone was born into systemic disadvantage?
Sure.
Are we really saying they are 100% responsible for things outside their control?
It is a crucial distinction here. We are not talking about fault. We are talking about responsibility.
Okay, what's the difference?
Fault looks backward at who caused the problem. Responsibility looks forward at who is going to fix it.
Oh, that's good.
Right. Of course, bad things happen to people unfairly. The world is wildly unjust. But from a standpoint of sheer psychological utility, the moment you blame an external factor for your current reality, you voluntarily strip yourself of the power to change it.
Because it's out of your hands.
Exactly. You adopt an external locus of control. If your financial situation is the economy's fault, then logically you just have to wait for the entire global economy to shift before your life can improve.
Which means you are helpless.
But if you take 100% responsibility for how you respond to the economy, you instantly regain the power to make different choices today. You move from victimhood to extreme ownership.
Okay, so how do we actually execute that ownership? How do we stop the default mode network from running our lives and force our conscious mind back into the driver's seat?
The most practical tool we have for this is shockingly unglamorous tracking.
Tracking, like writing things down.
Yes. Meticulous, relentless tracking. Writing down every single bite of food that enters your mouth. Writing down every single penny you spend. Tracking every minute of your time to see where it actually goes.
Okay, I can hear the listener groaning right now. You want me to carry a notebook or open an app just to write down that I bought a $2 black coffee at a gas station?
Yes. And here's the neurological reason why.
Okay, lay it on me.
Tracking is profoundly effective, not just because of the raw data it produces, but because of the biological friction it creates.
Friction.
It forces your reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters out unnecessary information, to suddenly care about the $2 coffee. It forces conscious awareness into unconscious moments.
It basically forces you to feel the texture of the steering wheel again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you have to pull out your phone or a notebook and physically record that you are eating a donut in the break room, the friction of that physical action interrupts the autopilot sequence.
You can't just mindlessly do it anymore.
No, you are actively, consciously choosing to consume it and forcing yourself to acknowledge the choice. The old business adage really holds true here. What gets measured gets managed.
Right. Because you absolutely cannot change a behavioral pattern if you are biologically unaware that you're even executing it.
Precisely.
You know, this concept of extreme ownership completely dismantles a very comforting narrative we all rely on. The luck myth.
Oh, the luck myth.
Yes. We look at someone who built a massive business or got an incredible promotion out of nowhere or has a deeply loving marriage after 20 years, and our instinct is to say, wow, they are so lucky they were just in the right place at the right time.
Right.
But if we apply the compound effect, we see that luck is usually just the sudden, explosive visibility of thousands of right choices compounded over time.
Claiming someone else's success is just luck is a defense mechanism.
Totally.
It is an abdication of our own responsibility. It's a way for us to excuse our own lack of progress by pretending the universe just handed someone else a magical advantage.
Now, does chance exist? Do random beneficial events happen? Of course.
Sure, a lottery winner is lucky.
Right. But sustainable, replicable success operates on a completely different axis. The Roman philosopher Seneca defined luck as what happens when preparation meets opportunity.
Exactly. Opportunity is constantly swirling around us. But if you haven't been doing the mundane, invisible work, if you haven't been tracking your choices, the opportunity will pass right by you.
Because you literally lack the capacity to leverage it.
Yes, taking that level of absolute responsibility feels incredibly heavy at first. I mean, it means looking in the mirror and owning the things you really aren't proud of.
Yeah, that's not fun.
No, but it also reveals itself as the ultimate liberating force. Because if you built the cage you are currently sitting in, it means you have the power to dismantle it.
It's the shift from being a passive victim of circumstance to being the active architect of your reality.
Beautifully put.
But here is where the plot thickens. Because once you grab that steering wheel, once you start tracking and become intensely aware of your daily choices, you quickly realize something kind of terrifying.
What's that?
You aren't just making isolated, independent, rational decisions all day long. You are actually caught in deep, repetitive, almost inescapable loops.
Ah.
And that brings us to the invisible architecture of our daily lives. Habits.
The behavioral research on this is staggering. Approximately 40 to 45% of our daily actions are not conscious decisions at all.
45%.
Yeah. They are ingrained habits. Nearly half of your waking hours, you are essentially a highly advanced robot running on pre-programmed software loops.
Wow. Which means if your software is dialed in, 40% of your day is automatically moving you toward your goals without you having to burn an ounce of willpower.
Right.
But if your habits are poorly programmed, nearly half of your life is actively working against you, destroying your health, your wealth, or your relationships, while you aren't even consciously aware of it.
This perfectly illustrates the dual nature of compounding. The exact same mathematical force that makes good habits so incredibly powerful over a 27-month period is exactly what makes bad habits so utterly devastating.
Because it multiplies everything.
Right. A single bad habit, say eating a fast food burger, once rarely ruins your cardiovascular system. But compounded daily, over years, that tiny action builds arterial plaque until it triggers a catastrophic event.
The compound effect doesn't care if it's a good or bad habit.
It is a blind, impartial multiplier. It simply takes whatever data you feed it and amplifies it exponentially.
So, if nearly half our lives run on this software, we desperately need to decode how these loops actually work. Behavioral science breaks down the habit loop into 3 distinct phases: trigger, routine, and reward.
Yes,
Can you walk us through the actual biological mechanics of that loop?
absolutely. Let's use a very common workplace example. Let's say every day at 3:40 p.m. you experience a natural dip in circadian rhythm, you feel a wave of fatigue, and you walk to the break room to buy a candy bar from the vending machine.
Classic 3:00 p.m. slump.
Right. So the trigger is the 3:00 p.m. fatigue, coupled with perhaps a bit of boredom or stress. It is the environmental and internal cue that boots up the software program.
Okay.
The routine is the behavior itself,
Mm-hmm.
the physical act of getting up, walking down the hall, inserting the money, and eating the chocolate.
And the reward.
The reward is the sudden glucose spike, the temporary burst of energy, the dopamine release from the sugar, and maybe even the brief social interaction in the hallway.
And the brain logs that reward. So the next day, when the clock strikes 3:00 p.m. and that fatigue hits, the brain says, hold on, I know exactly how to fix this feeling. Execute the candy bar protocol.
Exactly. And from a neurological standpoint, something fascinating happens as you repeat this loop. Your brain literally builds and reinforces a physical pathway for that specific sequence.
A physical pathway.
Yes, it surrounds the nerve fibers with a fatty substance called myelin. The more you repeat the habit, the thicker the myelin sheath gets, which allows the electrical signal of that habit to travel faster and faster.
So it's getting hardwired into your brain.
Eventually, the basal ganglia, which is a primitive part of your brain, heavily involved in pattern recognition and motor control, completely takes over the sequence.
Wait, really?
Yeah. The prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain, actually powers down during the routine.
Mhm.
It stops participating in the decision-making process to conserve glucose.
Oh, wow.
That is why you can find yourself eating the candy bar before you even consciously realize you walk to the break room.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain is optimizing for efficiency by making the behavior automatic.
Okay, so if we want to change our lives, we have to hack this myelin coding system. We have to build new, thicker pathways for the behaviors we actually want.
Exactly.
And from the source material, there is a very specific 5-step installation process for building a new habit.
Right. Step 1. Identify a keystone habit.
A keystone habit.
Yes, a foundational behavior that naturally creates a cascading positive ripple effect into other areas of your life without requiring extra willpower.
Like what?
For many people, daily vigorous exercise is a keystone habit. When you exercise, you naturally tend to crave better food. Your sleep architecture improves, and your focus and patience at work increase. You install one habit, and it organically lifts 3 others.
Oh, that's great. Okay, step 2. You have to explicitly define the trigger and the reward. You can't just throw out a vague goal like, I want to start running more.
No, the brain doesn't know what to do with that.
You have to program it like a computer. When my phone alarm goes off at 6 a.m., that's the trigger. I will immediately put on the running shoes sitting by my bed, the routine, and my reward will be the endorphin rush and a hot cup of premium, expensive coffee that I only allow myself to drink after a run.
Perfect. And then we reach step 3, which is where almost everyone fails.
Okay, what is it?
Start small. And I mean so incredibly small that it is virtually impossible for your brain to perceive it as a threat.
How small are we talking?
The classic example in behavioral design is flossing. If you want to start flossing your teeth, do not commit to aggressively flossing all your teeth twice a day. Commit to flossing exactly 1 tooth every single night.
I know exactly what the listener is thinking right now. Flossing one tooth is absurd.
It sounds it.
It provides 0 dental hygiene benefits. Why even waste the time?
It sounds utterly ridiculous until you understand the neurology. You are entirely correct. Flossing 1 tooth does not prevent cavities.
Right.
But you aren't trying to clean your teeth in the beginning. You're trying to establish the neurological pathway in the basal ganglia.
Ah, the myelin sheath.
Exactly. You are trying to bypass the amygdala, the part of the brain that detects threats and triggers the fight-or-flight response.
Oh, so a big habit feels like a threat.
Yes. If you try to force a massive new routine like a 1-hour workout when you haven't exercised in years, Your amygdala perceives the massive energy expenditure as a threat to your survival, and it floods your system with resistance.
That explains why I always quit on day 3 of a new workout plan.
But if your goal is just to put on your gym shoes or floss one single tooth, the amygdala doesn't care. It doesn't trigger the resistance. You build the habit of being a person who flosses.
Wow.
Once the neural pathway is myelinated and established, scaling up from 1 tooth to 32 teeth requires almost zero extra willpower. But if you start too big, you are relying entirely on willpower, and willpower is a rapidly depleting chemical resource.
Make it so easy you can't say no. That is brilliant.
Exactly.
Okay, step 4 is consciously celebrating those small wins. You actually have to give yourself a mental pat on the back because that generates the tiny hit of dopamine required to reinforce the pathway.
Right, you need that dopamine.
And step 5 is habit stacking, tying the new fragile habit to an existing rock-solid habit.
Yes, stack.
For example, after I pour my morning coffee, a habit that is already heavily myelinated, I will immediately write down 3 things I am grateful for. You use the momentum of the old habit to carry the new one.
It's highly effective.
But let me challenge this model for a second.
Yeah.
Habit stacking sounds great in a sterile laboratory environment, but life is chaotic. Let's say I build this delicate, carefully constructed tower of morning habits. What happens when reality hits?
Oh, reality always hits.
Right. The dog throws up on the living room rug, a kid is screaming because they lost their homework, and I slept through my alarm. Doesn't the entire delicate stack of habits completely collapse the moment the morning gets disrupted?
That is the exact reason why step 3, making it impossible to fail, is so critical.
Okay.
The reason your habit stack survives a chaotic morning is because the individual components are scaled down to their absolute minimum viable dose.
Like the 1 tooth.
Right. Even if the dog throws up, the kids are screaming, and you have exactly 4 minutes before you have to leave the house, you still have time to floss 1 tooth.
Yeah, that takes 3 seconds.
You still have time to read 1 single paragraph of a book while you wait for the coffee machine to heat up. You protect the behavioral architecture by drastically dropping the intensity, but fiercely maintaining the consistency.
Just to keep the circuit alive.
You keep the neural pathway firing, even at 5% capacity, because the brain still registers it as a repetition. You prevent the brain from initiating synaptic pruning, which is the process where it breaks down unused neural connections.
That makes profound sense. You aren't trying to win a gold medal on a bad morning. You are just keeping the circuit alive.
Exactly.
Now, building these new positive habit loops feels incredibly mechanical. It's highly conscious, deliberate, and honestly a bit exhausting at first. You're constantly monitoring your own software.
It is tiring.
But the promise of the compound effect is that eventually, if you endure the friction, physics takes over. You hit a tipping point where the myelin sheath is thick enough, and suddenly you get a massive, unstoppable push.
And that leads us to the concept of the rocket launch and harnessing the immense power of momentum.
Let's talk about momentum.
Momentum, or what Darren Hardy affectionately calls the Big Mo, is the ultimate force multiplier in human performance.
The big...
Once you have momentum, you look like an absolute genius to the outside world. Things that used to require massive amounts of willpower and effort suddenly become effortless and automatic.
Success just seems to magnetically attract more success.
But generating that initial momentum is brutal.
The analogy often used here is a space shuttle launching into orbit, and it's such a perfect visualization of human energy.
It really is.
When a massive space shuttle sits on the launch pad, it is fighting the maximum gravitational pull of the entire planet. In order to break free from that gravity, the shuttle uses vastly more fuel in the first few minutes of liftoff than it does for the entire rest of the trip once it's orbiting the Earth.
Getting started is always the hardest part, bar none, because you are fighting the immense gravity of your old, deeply ingrained habits, the gravity of your current environment, and the gravity of your own internal doubt.
It takes so much energy just to budge.
You have to expend a disproportionate, almost painful amount of energy just to get off the ground. But once you break through that lower atmosphere, once you achieve a state of orbit, you can travel thousands of miles an hour with barely a tap on the thrusters.
That is the physics of momentum applied to human behavior.
Yes.
So how do we actually spark that momentum? How do we ignite the thrusters on a daily basis without burning out?
The answer lies in the architecture of the morning. A well-designed morning routine is infinitely more valuable than any motivational speech or burst of inspiration.
Really? More than motivation?
Because inspiration is an emotion, and emotions are notoriously volatile and fleeting. You
Mm.
might wake up feeling incredibly motivated, or you might wake up feeling anxious, depressed, or exhausted.
Right.
A routine does not care how you feel. A routine is an execution sequence. Extraordinary achievers do not rely on how they feel to get things done. They rely on their engineered routines to manufacture momentum, regardless of their emotional state.
Let's look at a prime example of that. Before the sun is even up, before most people have even hit the snooze button for the second time, high achievers have typically completed a sequence.
Yep.
They've exercised, flushing their brain with BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. They have spent time reading something educational, orienting their mindset. They've journaled or reviewed their long-term goals.
They won the morning.
They secure a massive, undeniable daily win while their brainwaves are still in that highly suggestible alpha or theta state, long before the chaotic demands of the world wake up and try to hijack their attention.
Win the morning, win the day. It's not just a cliche. It is about setting the physiological and psychological tone.
How so?
When you wake up, your cortisol levels are naturally peaking. If you start your day by reactively grabbing your phone, checking work emails, and scrolling through social media outrage, you are immediately flooding your system with stress hormones and letting external forces dictate your momentum.
You're starting on the defensive.
You are playing defense. If you start your day with a proactive, controlled routine, you are taking control of the wheel immediately. You are playing offense.
But with momentum comes a very stark warning from the text. As powerful as the big Mo is, it is incredibly fragile.
Very fragile.
Momentum is hard to build and frighteningly easy to lose. Missing one day of a habit is a slip, a human error. But missing 2 days in a row is the beginning of a new behavioral pattern. It is starting the habit of quitting.
The compounding math doesn't care if you've been perfect for a year. If you stop, the momentum bleeds out.
I have to play devil's advocate here, though, because this never miss twice philosophy can sound incredibly unforgiving.
It does sound harsh.
We're human beings, not machines.
Hmm.
If the listener has a genuine, unpredictable emergency, a family crisis, a severe illness, a massive, unforeseen disruption, and they miss 2 days of their new exercise routine,
Right.
doesn't telling them they've started the habit of quitting completely demoralize them? Doesn't it induce so much guilt that they just throw their hands up and abandon the whole plan?
It is a vital question, and we really have to separate the physics of behavior from moral judgment here.
Okay, separate them how?
The strictness of never miss twice is not about guilt. It is not about punishing yourself for being human. It is entirely about protecting the energy investment required to start over.
Interesting.
Let's return to the space shuttle. If the shuttle turns off its massive engines halfway through the launch sequence, it doesn't just pause gracefully in midair.
No, it falls back down.
Gravity immediately asserts dominance, and the shuttle begins falling backward. To start again, it has to generate all that initial liftoff energy from scratch.
Ah, so it's about protecting the initial fuel you already burned.
Precisely. Every time you make an exception, just this once I'll skip the gym, just this once I'll eat the whole pizza, you aren't just taking a harmless break. You are weakening your internal standard.
You're losing altitude.
You are proving to your own nervous system that your commitments are negotiable. Protecting your rituals fiercely is an act of extreme self-preservation. Consistency is exponentially more powerful than intensity.
So the small dose is better than the big sporadic dose.
It is biologically and neurologically far better to do a 5-minute low-intensity workout every single day than to do a grueling 2-hour workout once a week. The daily repetition maintains the firing rate of the neural pathway. It keeps the shuttle moving upward.
And if an emergency happens?
If a genuine emergency happens, you don't quit. You scale down to the absolute minimum viable dose. You do one single push-up, you read one single sentence, but you fiercely protect the chain of execution.
You keep the momentum alive, even if it's barely a spark.
Yes.
So we are taking extreme ownership, we're tracking our choices, we're hacking our habit loops, and we're fiercely protecting our daily momentum.
We are doing a lot.
We really are. But you don't launch your rocket in a vacuum. The space you launch from and the gravity of the things and people around you play a massive role in whether you achieve orbit at all.
The environment factor.
Exactly. Auditing your universe. This is a major pivot point.
We love to think of our minds as these impenetrable fortresses of logic and independent thought.
Oh, totally.
But the cognitive reality is that our minds are deeply, fundamentally porous. We constantly, unconsciously absorb the world around us. We are highly social primates, wired for mimicry.
Right. Jim Rohn famously said you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
But the compound effect requires us to expand this drastically. You are the average of all your inputs. Not just the physical people, but the media you consume, the ideas you entertain, the algorithms you scroll, and the physical spaces you inhabit.
Let's break those down, starting with the people, because this requires some ruthless honesty. We have to categorize the people in our lives into 3 distinct groups. The first group is what the text calls dissociations.
This is often the most painful category to address.
I bet.
Dissociations are the people you need to sever ties with or avoid as completely as possible. These are the toxic influences, the chronic complainers, the cynics, the people whose entire identity revolves around dragging ambition down to their level.
It's exhausting just being around them.
From a neurological standpoint, this actually involves mirror neurons. When you watch someone complain, your brain actually simulates the act of complaining, strengthening the neural pathways for negativity in your own brain.
Wait, really? Just watching them does that?
Yes.
Yeah.
You cannot consistently soar with eagles if you are voluntarily spending your time scratching in the dirt with turkeys. The emotional contagion is too strong.
It sounds incredibly harsh, but I guess it is a biological necessity.
It is.
The second category is limited associations. These are people you cannot, or perhaps should not, entirely cut out of your life.
Right.
Maybe it's a deeply negative family member or a highly cynical coworker you share an office with. You can't just delete them from your reality, but you can strictly cap the dosage.
Cap the dosage, exactly.
You give the negative family member 3 hours at a Thanksgiving dinner, not a week-long vacation. You limit the exposure to the toxin.
And finally, we have expanded associations. These are the people who are currently operating at the exact level you want to reach. The people who inspire you, who challenge your assumptions, and who naturally hold you to a higher standard.
The Eagles.
The Eagles. You must proactively hunt these people down and aggressively invest the vast majority of your social energy there. The gravitational pull of your social circle is absolute. It will either pull you up to their elevated standard or drag you down to their baseline. It is very rarely neutral.
But it goes far beyond the people we talk to. We have to ruthlessly audit our mental diet.
The mental diet.
It is a bizarre paradox. We wouldn't eat out of a literal garbage dumpster and expect to have a high-performing, healthy physical body.
Of course not.
Yet we will sit on the couch and mindlessly consume hours of sensationalized, fear-mongering news, toxic social media debates, and low-vibration reality television. And then we wonder why our minds are utterly filled with anxiety, brain fog, and doubt.
It is a phenomenal point. Why is doom scrolling so destructive? It's not just bad information. It is a biological hijack.
A biological hijack.
When you consume negative, threat-based news, your amygdala triggers a stress response. Your body is flooded with cortisol.
The stress hormone.
Yes. High levels of cortisol literally impair the function of the prefrontal cortex, the exact part of the brain you desperately need to make those small, smart choices we've been talking about. By consuming toxic media, you are biologically disabling your ability to execute the compound effect.
That is terrifying.
The strategy here is radical replacement. You don't just try to watch less TV, you purposefully replace it with high-quality, dense inputs, books, educational podcasts, audio seminars. Immersing your brain in 30 minutes of deeply educational or inspiring content every single morning sets the neurological baseline for the rest of the day.
And the third environmental factor is our physical space. The mantra here is environment design is behavior design.
Environment design.
It is about cognitive offloading. If junk food isn't in your pantry, you literally cannot eat it at 10 p.m. when your willpower is shot. If your running shoes are already placed right next to your bed and your gym clothes are laid out, you're dramatically more likely to put them on in the morning.
It removes the friction.
Right. Environment design sounds exactly like going bowling, but asking the staff to put the inflatable bumpers up in the gutters. You are literally guaranteeing a strike, or at least forward momentum, by making it physically impossible for your choices to veer off the lane into the gutter.
That is a brilliant visualization.
Where?
Relying on willpower is a fool's errand. Willpower is not a character trait. It is a finite chemical resource that steadily depletes every time you make a decision throughout the day.
Decision fatigue.
Exactly. By 8 o'clock at night, you suffer from decision fatigue. Your willpower is exhausted. If the junk food is physically in the house, the exhausted version of you will inevitably eat it.
Because it's easy.
Environment design takes willpower completely out of the equation. You engineer your surroundings so that the good choices are the path of least resistance, and the bad choices require an agonizing amount of friction to execute.
I love that.
I challenge everyone listening to perform a ruthless, objective audit of their inputs. Look at your desk. Look at the apps on your phone's home screen. Look at your calendar. Every single input in your life is either accelerating your compound growth or it is actively decelerating it. There is no such thing as a neutral input.
So let's map out where we are. You have optimized your physical environment, curated your social inputs, built massive momentum through your routines, and established airtight myelinated habits.
The machine is fully running.
The machine is running, but how do you cross the final threshold? How do you truly separate yourself from the rest of the pack, from the millions of other intelligent, hardworking people who are also trying to be successful?
The ultimate separator.
That brings us to our final core concept, boiling water and the physics of the extra degree.
This is where the mathematical magic of compounding reaches its absolute zenith. The concept is based on a very simple, observable fact of physics and phase transitions.
Okay, phase transitions.
At 211 degrees Fahrenheit, water is very, very hot. It is energetic. But at 212 degrees, just one single solitary degree hotter, it boils.
It changes completely.
It changes state entirely. It produces steam. And steam has enough kinetic power to move a massive iron locomotive. One tiny marginal degree of extra effort entirely changes the state of matter and unleashes exponential power.
It's the philosophy of marginal gains. Doing just a fraction of a percent more than what is expected or what is strictly required.
Exactly.
There are 3 specific, highly actionable ways to apply this acceleration in your life. First, multiply your existing successes. This means fighting the urge to always try and fix your weaknesses. Instead, look at what is already working really well for you and turbocharge it.
Yes. If a specific marketing strategy in your business is yielding a steady 5% return, human nature is to say, okay, that's handled. Let me go try to invent a whole new strategy from scratch.
Right, squirrel.
Exactly. But the extra degree says, what happens if I apply just a little bit more capital or one extra degree of focus to the strategy that is already winning? You don't necessarily need a new vehicle. You need to press the accelerator slightly harder on the vehicle that is already moving.
The second way to apply the extra degree is finding hidden pockets of time. We all walk around complaining that we are too busy.
Always.
But if we are honest, our days are filled with wasted margins. The 30-minute commute to work, sitting in the waiting room at the dentist, walking the dog around the block, folding laundry.
They're everywhere.
Those aren't lost minutes. Those are hidden pockets of leverage. You can turn that dead time into compounded learning time by listening to an audiobook, practicing a language app, or mentally reviewing your goals.
It is about cognitive switching versus passive absorption. You aren't trying to do deep, focused work while driving that's dangerous.
Please don't do that.
You are simply absorbing high-quality auditory inputs during an automated physical task. It requires 0 extra physical time, but the compounded intellectual advantage over a year of doing this is staggering.
And what's the third way?
And the third way to apply the extra degree is by continuously, relentlessly raising your baseline standards. What was a monumental celebratory achievement for you a year ago must become your absolute non-negotiable minimum baseline today. You never allow yourself to settle into the comfort zone of past victories.
This concept also applies beautifully to our relationships. It is not just about grinding in business or optimizing your health.
Definitely not.
It is about doing one extra unexpected thing daily for your partner, your team, or your client. Sending one extra handwritten note of appreciation, making one extra phone call just to check in, bringing your spouse coffee without being asked. That 1 degree of extra relational effort compounds over years into unbreakable, deeply rooted loyalty.
That is so true.
But I have to ask a crucial question about this because we need to reconcile 2 potentially conflicting ideas here.
Let's hear it.
We started this entire deep dive by reassuring the listener that success is found in small, mundane, insignificant steps. Cutting out 125 calories. Flossing exactly 1 tooth.
Yes.
Now, at the very end of our journey, we are talking about going beyond the extra mile, turbocharging, and finding hidden pockets of time so we are constantly optimizing.
I see where you're going.
How do those 2 ideas safely coexist without the listener braining completely out and crashing the system?
It is a brilliant observation.
Right.
And it is precisely where many highly driven people misinterpret the message and drive themselves into the ground.
Right.
The key to preventing burnout lies in the exact phrasing.
Yeah.
the extra degree. It is exactly that, just one single degree. It is not about suddenly working 24 hours a day, sacrificing your sleep, or running 10 miles when you only committed to one.
Oh, I see.
It is still a fundamentally small step,
Yeah.
but it is the critical culminating step.
It's the step that changes the water to steam. It's the tipping point.
Precisely. Making one extra sales call at the end of the day takes maybe 5 minutes. It is a tiny, almost insignificant action in a vacuum. But because 99% of your competition stops exactly at 5:00 p.m., that one extra call, repeated daily, separates you from the entire pack.
Oh, that makes sense.
Finding hidden pockets of time isn't about working yourself to the bone or denying yourself rest. It's about being deliberate instead of distracted. Choosing to listen to an educational podcast instead of top 40 radio during a commute requires absolutely zero extra time and zero extra physical energy, but the compounded mental result over a decade alters the trajectory of your life.
So it's not harder, just smarter.
The extra degree is small, it is manageable, but its impact is highly exponential.
That perfectly reconciles the philosophy. Small steps, compounded over time, with just one extra degree of effort at the margins.
Exactly.
Let's recap this massive journey for everyone listening, because we have covered incredible ground today.
We really have.
We started with the harsh realization that the compound effect is always working in the background. Whether you are utilizing it for positive, exponential growth like Brad, or suffering its negative decline like Larry.
The blind multiplier.
We learned that to harness this biological and mathematical force, you have to wake up from the default mode network and take 100% radical ownership of your reality, using tracking to force conscious awareness into your unconscious behaviors.
And from there, we decoded the invisible architecture of your life, your myelin-coded habits.
The software loops.
We learned that starting impossibly small, like flossing one tooth, bypasses the brain's threat response and relies on consistency over depleting willpower to rewire your basal ganglia.
We discussed the immense power and the sheer fragility of momentum and why a proactive morning routine is your ultimate launchpad against the gravity of the world.
Winning the morning.
We talked about auditing your universe, curating the mirror neurons of your friends, defending your prefrontal cortex from toxic media, and designing your physical environment so it acts as bumpers on a bowling lane, propelling you forward.
And finally, pushing for that one extra marginal degree of effort that turns hot water into steam.
It is a comprehensive, scientifically backed blueprint for achievement.
It really is a blueprint. But as we bring this home, there is one final, overarching truth that anchors every single concept we've discussed today.
What's that?
The absolute core lesson regarding success is this. Success is rented, not owned. You must pay for it every single day through consistent action.
Wow, success is rented. The rent is due every single day.
Every single day.
You don't just achieve a goal, cross a finish line, and then put your success on a shelf to admire it while you stop doing the things that got you there.
Exactly. The moment you stop paying the daily rent of those small, smart choices, the compound effect begins working in reverse.
It never stops.
And that leaves us with a profound, almost philosophical question, something for you, the listener, to deeply consider as you step back into your daily routine.
Right.
If success is strictly a rental property that requires a daily payment of effort, what does that mean for our traditional societal ideas of retirement? Or the myth of finally making it?
Oh, that's deep.
If the biological and mathematical laws of the compound effect never ever stop, are we ever truly done growing? Or is the deepest, most authentic joy of the human experience actually found in the daily rent we pay?
What a phenomenal thought to chew on. The process is the destination. The growth is the reward.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take back the wheel, protect your momentum, and start stacking those pennies today.